Who killed Betsy Aardsma in the library? What if a place you thought was safe, somewhere quiet like a library, became the site of an unspeakable crime? It was the day after Thanksgiving, November 28, 1969. Penn State University was quieter than usual, with most students still home celebrating the holiday. For those who returned, like 22-year-old Betsy Aardsma, it was a time to catch up on studies before finals. But for Betsy, that day would turn deadly, and her murder would become one of the most haunting mysteries in Penn State's history. Betsy Aardsma's case has remained unsolved for over 50 years. So, who killed Betsy Aardsma in the library? And why did her life end so suddenly? Who was Betsy Aardsma? Betsy was a kind, intelligent young woman from Holland, Michigan. She was smart, driven, and full of life, with big dreams for the future. Friends described her as someone who was easy to get along with, always smiling, and incredibly focused on her goals. Betsy had a strong sense of purpose. She wanted to help people, make a difference, and someday join the Peace Corps. In the fall of 1969, Betsy transferred to Penn State University to continue her English studies. She was especially interested in literature and had a love for reading and writing. Those closest to her say that she was excited to be at Penn State, hopeful about what her time there might lead to. But in one tragic moment, her promising future would be stolen. The last day, November 28, 1969. It was the day after Thanksgiving, a calm, chilly Friday. While most students stayed home, Betsy returned to campus early to work on a research paper. That day, she entered the Pattee Library, a large, well-known library on campus. Inside, she made her way to level 2 of the Stacks, a section of the library lined with tall, narrow shelves and dim lighting. It was an area of quiet study, and it had an eerie feel, a place where students could tuck themselves away, hoping for some peace as they studied. Betsy was last seen walking toward this section around 4 p.m. Just 45 minutes later, a horrific event unfolded. At 4:45 p.m., in the quiet of the Stacks, Betsy was suddenly attacked. She collapsed between the bookshelves, struggling to breathe. At first, a student noticed her lying on the ground and thought she might have fainted. But then someone saw blood spreading across her blouse. Betsy had been stabbed directly in the heart. The attack was brutal but quick, and it left everyone in shock. The Discovery paramedics arrived quickly after someone finally called for help, but it was too late. Betsy was pronounced dead shortly after they got her to the hospital. Her wound was clean and deep, a single precise stab wound to her chest. Whoever had attacked her had done so without leaving any clear evidence behind. Betsy's death was sudden, violent, and worst of all, seemingly silent. In a crowded library full of students studying for finals, nobody saw or heard anything strange. Her killer had managed to commit a murder right under everyone's noses and then disappear without a trace. The investigation begins. Once the police arrived, they immediately began to search for clues. They hoped to find the murder weapon, a bloody fingerprint, or even some clothing left behind. But after an exhaustive search, they found nothing. No weapon, no blood trail, and no sign of forced entry or struggle. The Pattee Library had suddenly become the site of a mystery, and detectives had little to go on. They interviewed dozens of students, professors, and library staff who might have been around when Betsy was attacked. Many of them didn't even know something had happened until they saw the ambulance arrive. Nobody reported hearing any screams or sounds of a struggle, which led police to wonder, could the killer have been someone Betsy knew? Was it someone she trusted enough to let get close? The investigation continued, but it seemed every lead they followed led to a dead end. Suspects and theories. Over the years, several theories about Betsy's murder developed. Detectives and locals tried to piece together what might have happened. And here are some of the main theories that emerged. Theory 1. The random killer. One of the most disturbing theories was that Betsy's death was a random attack, that someone had targeted her simply because she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But her wound, one clean stab directly to the heart, seemed too precise for an impulsive random act. It looked more like something done with purpose, maybe even practice. Theory 2. A jealous lover. Another theory was that Betsy might have had a romantic relationship that nobody knew about, perhaps one that turned sour. Friends and family denied this idea, saying Betsy was focused on her studies and hadn't mentioned any secret romances. However, the thought lingered. Could it have been a love affair, kept hidden from everyone? Could someone close to her have turned into her killer? Theory 3. A stalker or obsessed admirer. Some believe Betsy's killer might have been someone who had quietly watched her from afar, someone who became obsessed and eventually dangerous. This theory suggested that her killer might have been a fellow student or someone from outside the university, lurking in the library that day, waiting for a chance to strike. Yet, despite this chilling idea, nobody had seen anyone suspicious around Betsy in the days or hours before her murder. Theory 4. The mysterious drifter. One final theory is that the killer was someone completely outside Betsy's world, a stranger who wandered onto campus unnoticed. In this theory, her killer might have entered the library, committed the crime, and left without being seen. But with no witnesses or clear evidence, this idea remains just a theory, with little support to back it up. For each theory, detectives found themselves running into the same problem: no evidence. No one had seen or heard anything that could point to a suspect. Each theory seemed plausible, but none held up under scrutiny. The aftermath and ongoing mystery. Years passed, and Betsy's case continued to haunt the Penn State campus. Detectives revisited the case year after year, hoping that some new clue might emerge. They held on to the hope that advances in forensic science might one day help them find answers. But as the decades passed, her case remained unsolved. The case of Betsy Aardsma's murder became one of the most mysterious and unsettling in the university's history. People who had been on campus that day couldn't forget the shock and fear that gripped the community. Betsy's friends and family have been left with questions, wondering what might have been. If only she had chosen a different day, a different library, a different path. Advances in forensics and renewed interest. In recent years, there's been renewed interest in solving cold cases with advanced forensic techniques. The rise of DNA technology and other scientific methods has allowed police to solve cases thought unsolvable. Detectives hope that one day they might uncover a piece of evidence, maybe some DNA or another hidden clue that they missed the first time around. But so far, nothing has emerged. Despite new technology and endless dedication from detectives, Betsy's murder remains a haunting, unsolved mystery. Reflections on Betsy's life. Betsy Aardsma's life was cut short in a place that should have been safe, surrounded by people who never expected such a tragedy. Her story serves as a powerful, tragic reminder that life is unpredictable, and even the most peaceful places can hide dark secrets. The loss of such a bright young woman left a hole in the lives of those who knew her. Her family and friends remember her not for her tragic end, but for the kindness, warmth, and joy she brought to the world. They remember her dreams, her smile, and her passion for helping others.